Hey there, and welcome to Insomnia Insight number 347. It is a very important one. We're going to look at an email that just came in a couple of days ago from Chrisanne, who shares what helped her the most in her journey towards sleeping well. And we'll see that what she mentions is actually acceptance, education, and self-compassion. And I want to really share what happened to her, but also, hone in on that self-compassion, see why is it so important, give you 3 specific examples on when you have to deploy self-compassion, and then how to do just that. Super excited having you with me. Let us jump right to the email that came in from Chrisanne. And by the way, before we read it, I want to say, this came out of the blue. I didn't expect an email from Chrisanne, and she just wanted to share. And that makes me so happy whenever that happens. Many of the recent guests here that are had success stories to share, Malena, Michelle, Jim, Brian, all volunteered to come on because they just wanted to share. And I'm super grateful for that. I consider anyone like Chrisanne and everybody else who's shared their journey a bodhisattva. Everybody who's familiar with Buddhist philosophy, the philosophy is basically like life is suffering, it's a hard world, but when you become enlightened, you get to a place where there's no suffering. Some people reach that stage of enlightenment, but they choose to stay in the world of suffering to guide others towards enlightenment. And I think of people like Chrisanne, like a bodhisattva like that. It is amazing having your support, and I'm so happy that you're sharing this. So without further ado, let's jump in and read this email from Chrisanne. So it came in a few days ago, and she says, "Hi, Daniel. I'm not sure if this is the right email." It was, of course. "I wanted to reach out to you and thank you again for all your education, encouragement, and help with my insomnia I had a few months ago. Just wanted to update you on how things have progressed for me since it's been about 3 months since I spoke to you on bedtime. My sleep pretty much has gone back to normal, and I'm sleeping just fine. I even forget sometimes that I went through such terrible bout of insomnia. I just don't think about it anymore. I've been able to travel through different time zones, sleep in many different hotel rooms, enjoy sleeping in, and I don't abide by a sleep window anymore. My sleep isn't perfect, but who really has perfect sleep? I know that the occasional bad night of sleep is perfectly normal, and I'll never be as scary as when it first happened to me. I've learned not to center my life around it anymore. It's so hard to see this when you are deep into a phase of insomnia, but I see it clearly now that sleep will come to you if you try to see a bigger picture and let it have a small place in your life. Acceptance, education, and self-compassion were the 3 key components that I learned for better sleep, all thanks to you and bedtime." Thanks to you, actually, Chrisanne. You did all the work. Now, I'm sending this email in hopes that you might share it with others who were in my shoes and let them know to stay hopeful during during nights of no sleep. It is possible to sleep soundly again. Wishing you all the best, from Chrisanne. So I want to, again, thank you so much, Chrisanne, for sharing this. And I have there's a special place in my heart for everyone who comes back and shares their success story like that. It is amazing. And so let's talk about self-compassion, because that is like education is something I talk about all the time. Everything here is education. Acceptance I talk about a lot too, but self-compassion is something that really I've only realized how important it is in the last few months. So I want to spend some more time there. So what is self-compassion and why does it matter? Well, so the way I think about self-compassion is basically the self-love or self-kindness. So it is being kind to oneself, not being hard on oneself, having your own back. That's basically how I think about self-kindness or self-compassion. Now, why does it matter? Well, here's the thing. Nobody convinced you except yourself. What comes to my mind often is how you have these really celebrated people, artists, movie directors and things of that nature that often are very troubled. And, you have this desire to tell them, like, you've done amazing things, like your work is amazing. It's brought so much joy to the world. But often a lot of people are still troubled because they are not convinced themselves. And if they're not convinced themselves, it doesn't matter what everyone tells them, because they just feel like they're inadequate or something like that. So that's why self-compassion is so important, because nobody can truly, convince you that what you're doing is all right, everything's going to be fine, like, give you hope, except yourself. At the end of the day, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be, love yourself and have that self-compassion, because nobody else can ultimately do that. That's why it's so important. And, another way of saying why does it matter is when you're not self-compassionate and when you're not self-kind, you very easily feel stuck. If you're hard on yourself and you're like, why this happened? Why can't I get this right? Why this, why that? It can feel like you yourself, that you are the problem. And of course, if you think that you are the problem, you get stuck, because it feels like, how is anything going to help me if I am the problem? So you can see how when you don't deploy self-compassion, it is very tricky. So this is why it is so important. Now, we are going to jump to some specific examples of, when I would love for your kind of, subconscious to identify these, these times and be like, oh, this is what Dan talked about. This is one of those times where I should deploy self-compassion, self-kindness. So I picked 3. And you'll see that kind of the global, the common denominator, if anything, is that kind of when you're questioning yourself, questioning things, surrounding yourself. But anyway, let's jump in here and take a look. So one of them that I hear very, very often is this one. Number 1 is, I am too tired, too anxious, too depressed, too this, too that. And the thing here is that it is all in the too. That makes all the difference. If you say, I'm really tired, that's an acknowledgement, a statement. There is no judgment. It is just an acknowledgement. But when you add the too, things become very different. I am too tired. That implies something is wrong. I shouldn't feel this way. Why? It begs for like looking into why and trying to figure it out and do something different. The too is a key indicator that you're too hard on yourself, And when you hear yourself going, I am too, deploy self-kindness, instead of being, I'm too tired, and go, I'm really tired, and it's because of this reason. And that's nothing strange or unusual. So when you hear, I am too, in your mind, remember, that is one of the times where to deploy self-kindness. Number 2, I should have, common one is like, why am I still not sleeping well? I should have made more progress by now, or I should have stayed up that time. Why can't I get out of bed? I shouldn't have fallen asleep. I should have stayed awake, or I shouldn't have taken that pill. That's a common one. I should have been able to resist it. So when you hear that, like, I should have, same thing there again. There is that element of like self-judgment. You are hard on yourself. So when you hear that, I should have, that's another time to deploy self-kindness. Super, super important. Number 3, why am I not? Another one. I often hear, why am I not able to control my thoughts? I just can't do that. Why am I not able to deal with my emotions? And when I hear this one, I really feel for this person, because nobody on the planet can control their thoughts or emotions. So again, when you have this type of like questioning why you can't, why am I not able to do this? Why can't I do this? When there's questioning yourself like this, that's another time where it's super important to deploy self-kindness, okay? So what do I mean? Like, on a practical note, how do you do that? How do you deploy self-compassion? I think there are 2 really good examples. Some of you heard me talk about this before, but again, this cannot be said enough times. One of them is, you imagine a friend that's going through what you're going through, and they're asking you about it. Okay, they're saying, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. I just can't get anything right. I'm hopeless. What would you say to their friend? Would you be like, come on, you should be able to do that. Why can't you get this right? Of course you wouldn't say that. You'd be like kind and compassionate, and you would give them a hug, and you'd say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Be that person to yourself. Or imagine the 5-year-old version of yourself who's like scared of the dark. They're in their bed, they think there's there's a monster in the closet. How would you talk to the 5-year-old version of yourself? You'd be, it's fine, don't worry, there's nothing there, you're going to be okay. That is another great example of how to deploy self-compassion. So be that person to yourself, be that voice of like, kindness and reassurance, and, give yourself a hug, always hold your back. That is how you deploy self-compassion. And the thing is, when you do that, when you deploy self-compassion, like Chrisanne did, you will see that you are not the problem, nothing is standing in your way, and you will get to a place where you sleep really, really well. If you have all you need right here to do that, that is perfect. Couldn't be more excited. If you want some coaching support, accountability, etc., consider our new Insomnia Immunity Self-Coaching Master Program. Head over to thesleepcoachschool.com and you can see a free class there if you like that. If you are perhaps a busy professional, you only have 5 minutes a day, check out Bedtime. Text-based coaching, very, very convenient. So yeah, with that said, I hope this brought a lot of value. Hope it was really helpful. And one final time, a big, big thank you to you, Chrisanne. All right, thanks everyone, and have you back real soon. Bye-bye.